Hey fellas, Dane here, and this time I've got what I'm calling Double Shield Crush. I'll let some mapping gameplay happen in the background and do my usual rambling. I try to keep these short, but this one is a little bit more in depth this time. Off the top, what makes this build different and why I'm calling it Double Shield Crush is it runs a linked weapon for the Shield Crush and then General's Cry in the chest. I'll throw one somewhere on screen so you can see what I'm talking about. In doing so, lets you have a real six link for what I'm calling your personal six link, your Shield Crush that you can use to kill monsters all by yourself, and then a six link General's Cry in the weapon. So, assuming both of your Shield Crush gems are level 21 and you have a replica Dragon Fang, you can hit the level 24 breakpoint for both your gems while doing this. And so, being non crit, you can get a lot of mileage by basically having two six links with Shield Crush. So, that's the twist. There's a little more that goes into it, but I didn't want to, like hold that from you the whole video or anything like that. For gameplay, once you have some AoE, it's really smooth, a lot smoother than I thought. Maybe I just have a low bar for what I find acceptable. The big thing here is stacking endurance charges, so they can do a lot of heavy lifting for mitigation and damage with the combo of Arn's Anguish and Relicash Impatience. And so you're not only getting mitigation, you're getting a lot of resistances that makes it a lot easier to gear for damage and specific mitigation like Chaos Resist. Little side note, shield charge can actually clear to some degree because so much damage comes from your shield. You can just put a link on it, and that's actually a pretty fun perk. This build isn't crit. I like Dawnbreaker as a shield, and for progression, it's really great. I wanted to see how far I could take it as non-crit, so precise technique in this case. And Berserker has a negative multiplier to defense, so adding defense, crit, accuracy, all of that seemed like such a huge hassle, and I didn't want to deal with it, so I didn't even really consider crit when making it this character. And then just kind of looking around at the defenses of either Shield Crush or General's Cry builds, I didn't see much, but I looked at a couple and I just didn't really like what I was seeing. They're all so squishy. And I actually started this in SSF, and I did Shield Crush with the General's Cry 4 links, so essentially two 4 links, and I had a lot of fun. I felt like I was doing a lot of damage. I felt like I was crushing the Atlas. I got my Void Stones. I dropped a Dawnbreaker in SSF, and then I was like going back to try and get a better one and farm a 6 link and everything that was involved in the process. I actually thought it was really smooth. I enjoyed my time. I know that whole thing is pretty explored and documented, but just wanted to see for myself with my own hands how it felt on a scrap budget. And it was pretty sweet, along with the progression to go with that, prismatic eclipse, singularities, all that stuff are, there's still great weapons even with this, kind of hybrid build thing until you can roll like an elder or shapen weapon yourself. So that felt really good, and there was nothing particularly like hard walling this build out of anything in SSF. You know, Not that I play SSF, but I thought it was really cool, so I figured I'd mention it. So while the rest of this plays, I guess I'll cover the no cast when channeling, no corpse walker thing you might have seen or figured out by now. I run Desecrate just as a gem, and I actually hardcast it if I need corpses, so just really on bosses as needed, or like your Maven encounter, that kind of thing. This build isn't exactly helpless without corpses, and I don't really like that playstyle. I want to, fight alongside my dudes, and on top of that, giving up all those gems or boot slot and all that kind of stuff seems not so great. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So actually, AoE in its own way kind of solves a lot of these potential issues because General's Cry counts the power of corpses in addition to things that are alive. So if your AoE hits the whole screen, then you have a lot more real estate to get rage, and your dudes, if you saw in this video, pretty much anytime I war cry, it's either a sack for the 50% bonus damage to General's Cry or max rage when mapping. Bosses, it's not always max rage, I believe, but I consider it, more than serviceable, that's for sure. Alright, so I got the good, the bad, the ugly. Um, about 15 mil combined damage from both of your links. I guess if you plant the banner and you have max rage, which isn't totally unreliable, I guess, or unrealistic, you're at 19 mil. But you're not always going to be there. You're going to be like this in maps. So this stuff I think is legit. Onslaught's legit. Fort's legit. Conk Ground's legit. Intimidate and Crush. So I run Awaken Melee Fizz and Awaken Brutality wherever possible in my links. And because Shield Crush has overlaps and your General's Cry also kind of do their thing, I think ticking these is pretty legit in PoB, or at least I like to believe so. And then the tree here, nothing super special. Maybe an honorable mention to this attack mastery. I think it's really powerful. And then the very large threat of hope. So you're able to hit stance mastery, you're able to hit the hybrid leech, versatile combatant, and then basically like just good clicks here. And then this is also mapping brutal charge generation, so that's pretty good. Forbidden Flesh and Flame of choice, I went with Unrelenting because your endurance charge stacking for the most part, so this is just like a lot of stats. This node right here I have, and it's not necessarily required, but I run shrines, and I need this to keep my precise technique bonus while having a massive shrine on me. So if you don't care or don't want it or whatever, then you obviously don't have to. And then I'll get into the gear, how to make it, or the one thing that matters, and cuts. So off of the bat, I have a lot of luxury purchases on here, but let's go with the sword. So this is the first sword I had. Chance to Bleed's cosmetic, literally, like it doesn't add anything. Brutality and multi-strike is like what you're at for after. You can fossil or harvest craft this fairly easily with like reroll attack or physical or whatever you want, and or you can just buy it off trade for like 5C. And this is the next step, which would be a little bit better. So you're gonna want to Awakener Orb, 40% more attack damage from a Shaper Sword, and either Brutality or Melee Fizz, Dealer's Choice, and hope your prefixes fill or fill them yourself, and then do prefixes can't be changed, Harvest Reforged Speed. There might be a better way to do this. I didn't think of it, so you're going to want to double check your work and my work before you craft something like this. I want to say the chances like maybe a 1 in 10 or something to hit multi-strike because you're competing with all the attack speed mods and faster attack from Shaper. I one-banged it, so I just got lucky, and I can't really tell you anything else about it. Super awesome shield, easy to acquire, awesome effective hit pool, awesome against penetration, awesome against fizz. The shield is the bee's knees. I really love it. Stat helmet. So I've in game I actually have +1 in AoE on here now because my physical damage reduction is just it's good enough to where that actually it's like it hurts my damage reduction for the fizz taken as, and I don't need more incoming fire damage like scraping away at my block, even though it doesn't happen often. Big mitigation synergizes really well with precise technique and any other armor scaling, max res, things like that. These gloves and something similar is going to be necessary if you do not want to run the Impale gem and you still want to cap Impale chance. There might be other options I'm not thinking of, but this implicit is kind of where it's at. I did Insanity Essences on that. Obviously, it's completely up to you, but I wanted like a lot of speed on my shield charge. I want to feel the wind in my hair. So this and a Watcher's Eye with Impale Chance and a Dread Banner is going to be like carrying the bulk of your Impale Chance if you don't want to run the gem. And then if you do this, you're going to need Voln on the ring so you can get your Voln on hit from somewhere. But let's say you choose to run the Impale gem, for, budget or ease or whatever the case. You can run Tenu Ahi in here with vulnerability on hit. Especially if you do not have the Rational Doctrine, because your life regen is going to be completely terrible, and you're just going to be getting Adrenaline and Onslaught procs from this while also getting your vulnerability. A third option is Synthesized Vulnerability on hit gloves, and you can just craft them, stats, insanity, whatever you want to do. And that's another option, and then your rings become flex. This has +1 endurance charges on it. You don't need it, but it pairs with Arns, which gives you another humongous chunk of the damage. It's what gives you your brutal charges, and the Ralakesh is what lets you have so much freedom in the rares that you do wear, because you have so much res from all the endurance charges you have. Dragonflight, anoint the last endurance charge on the tree you don't have. Enough said, +3 shield crush gems. It's literally build enabling in this specific setup. Onslaught ring, luxury, just like max endurance charge rings, luxury. Here's the ring I had before. It's just stats. It's nothing crazy. And then here, Drox ring, amethyst. I did Harvest Reforged caster. Till hit vulnerability with suffixes I like. Fill suffix, Wild Beast Matron, Veil Chaos, block something, Unveil Life, kind of just call it a day. Not that hard. Roomies, you can use a regular Granite Flask over this, but I do this just in the event that I take a massive amount of fire damage and it completely screws up my block. I want overcap on the spell block just in case. Like, it makes me feel safer and I sleep better at night with this, but you can definitely use a Magic Flask, Granite, or whatever you want. This would probably be switched for silver if you don't have Onslaught from other sources. Attack speed roll. This in combination with Rational Doctrine gives you quite a huge reduced effective curses on you, especially when on consecrated ground. Healing Flask, and then Quicksilver with reduced shock. Fizz Cluster, I think you could get some okay stuff out of while holding a shield or attack cluster, but with the way this is set up, you get Battle Harden and Master the Fundamentals without having to take the back 2 points, so I really like it a lot. Rational Doctrine, completely luxury. Here's to me, the ideal Watcher's Eye, +2 and +25 chance. That which was taken is important here for the banner skills, have no reservation, but you can get this on a charm. The third line on here is bonus for brutal charge generation, and of course AoE. And then that banner, once again in combination with precision arrogance, helps you get like a little more mileage out of it. And then this Thread of Hope, at the time of purchase a couple weeks ago, is like 1.5D, so it's not that expensive, and for what it does, I would say it's a pretty valuable jewel. And then charms here, area, chaos res per endurance charge, area, 5% instant leech, might even be a dead mod on this build. Area cannot be stonewall fortified. Other notable mentions would be like cannot take reflective fizz, cannot be blinded, culling strike, bleeding enemies you kill explode, +1 impale, max block, cooldown recovery, reservation. The charms, they're everything, right? But I wanted AoE because I'm just a simple man. And then I guess I'll go over the gems real quick. So this is what it actually looks like in the sword. Here's the helmet, Flesh and Stone, Pride, Berserk, Desecrate for on bosses and whatever. And then this, even though PoB doesn't really say your EHP increases a lot when you go into Sadden Stance, the things nearby being blind and the fact that you take 15% less damage from things that aren't nearby when you're in like those dunes maps, or you're farming temples, or you've just taken like a lot of pretty greedy altars, because I run Wrath of the Cosmos and stuff, it can really help smooth out your mapping and make sure that like your health pool doesn't move that much when you're cruising through the map. For Link Shield Charge, if you count the insanity, it's like a 5 link. This is just for fun, and it clears alright. It clears alright for a shield charge. Molten Shell, still completely busted. It adds a lot of defense to this guy. Whenever it's up, you're probably not going to die unless something really insane happens or your like eyes are closed. Frostblink, necessary. War Chief, bonus damage. This is like your little arrogance setup, but the Dread Banner is free. Determination, it's actually 22 with +1 in the helmet. I'd have to like re-update this. And then this is what my Shield Crush actually looks like in the body armor, with General's Cry and everything, and then vulnerability from the ring. So that's the build in a nutshell. Those are cuts you can make, things you can do, options, cool stuff to think about. That is the thick and thin of the build. There's a lot of different stuff you can do it. Just in general, I was kind of exploring other ways to maybe do like another weapon link, maybe in like a two-hand build, and do like a double slam or double earth shatter or something like that. There's all kinds of cool things you can do, and hopefully to the people out there watching this, as far as Shield Crush or General's Cry goes, this was of some help to you. If not, I apologize, and I hope you guys all have a good one.